Get Shorty, the new film directed by Barry Sonnenfeld from the book by Elmore Leonard, stars John Travolta as Chili Palmer, a Miami gangster who wants to be a movie producer. Barry Sonnenfeld came to directing by way of cinematography after photographing films like When Harry Met Sally, Big, and Raising Arizona. He directed the Addams Family movies. Elmore Leonard began his writing career in the 50s and found a cult following for his books in the 1970s. He didn't have a bestseller until Glitz in 1985, but each novel since has been a critically acclaimed bestseller. I am pleased to have both of them here to talk about this movie that everybody is talking about. Welcome back, Elmore.
Charlie.
Great to have you here. How did you get this, and how did you talk DeVito into whatever he did, buying the rights to the book or whatever it was he did?
I had gone on a cruise with my wife, and I had never been on a cruise before, and the only book I had brought with me was a Tom Clancy novel. And at the airport, I panicked, because you don't know if it's going to be a good book or not until about page 1100. And I'm going on a cruise with only that book, so I ran to the airport before I got on the plane, and I looked and I saw Get Shorty. I never read an Elmore Leonard novel. Yeah. I had heard about him, so I brought Get Shorty on the cruise with me. I could not get into the Clancy novel. I started to read Get Shorty, and I immediately saw DeVito in the role that Travolta eventually got, because for me it's a book about self-confidence. Yeah. And Danny is the most self-confident person I've ever met. I shot Throw Mama from the Train with him. So I got back from the cruise, I called up DeVito on his car phone, and I said, Danny, I just read a book you should buy. And he said, all right, I'll buy it, you direct it, I'll star in it. And I said, great. That was on a Monday. On Tuesday, he called me. He said, look, there's another actor that wants to buy it, but I'm a bigger star, so we'll get it. Don't worry about it.
Don't you love the way these Hollywood people do business?
Well, and that's what happened.
In the book he bought, though, was the paperback. You know, he didn't buy the hardcover.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I think I owe you $13. But the truth is that means that the book had been out for, what, a year?
Yeah.
And that Hollywood hadn't bought it.
Yeah. Even though other books had been made into film.
Yeah, well, 32 books, 26 have been either bought or optioned.
Right.
And I think about a dozen have been made. And I wrote about 7 that were made, counting titles I wouldn't dare to mention on the air.
Because it didn't turn out so well.
Right.
Now, when did you meet Elmore?
Well,
so you get, Danny goes and buys the rights.
Danny buys the rights.
He's a bigger star, he gets the rights.
And Elmore was nervous because he didn't want this to be like the Addams Family for some reason.
Yes.
Although I see a lot of similarities, but no one else does. And so I remember Elmore and his agent calling me and saying, DeVito, now how jokey do you think this book is? Because it's not a jokey, and I convinced them that I knew what I was doing. And I didn't meet Elmore until he came to the set. We had a chair set up for him, and I was very nervous because I had this feeling I was going to look over my shoulder, and Elmore was going to say, Chili wouldn't do that. Chili wouldn't sit that way, but he didn't do that at all.
Of all things, Barry came off the set while my wife and I were watching, came over and said, what do you think? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah.
This is unheard of. This has never happened before.
Never been treated that way before.
It's never happened to anyone in Hollywood. Never.
Normally what they do is say, we bought it, it's our book, just shut up.
Yeah,
get
out.
It's not your book anymore.
What are you doing here? Yeah.
Now, you told me as we sat down how you felt about going to the premiere.
Oh, I've never been that excited in my life that I can remember.
Are you serious?
I was really excited. The last premiere I had gone to, I was 17 years old, and I was just out of high school. 1943, I went to a premiere at Grauman's Chinese, then, it's Mann's now where they had, and stood there and watched Tyrone Power walk by with Annabella. My next premiere, I'm walking up the red carpet.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It was really something, with all the clicking, all the lights.
Now, what you do better than anybody is character and dialogue, right? You'll give me that. That's what your strength is. Yeah. Is that easy? Does it make your work easier or not when you're trying to adapt this to film?
Oh, it makes it incredibly easy, because the hard part is the character and the dialogue. Yeah. There are a million plots out there, and none of them are, you can always find a plot.
Yeah, somebody's got a story of some kind.
Exactly, but what you never have is character and dialogue. I remember going to the set on the first Addams Family, looking at that day's scene, going, now how am I going to get Angelica Houston to say these words? And it was such a blessing to go to the set every day of Get Shorty's, knowing that I wasn't going to convince someone, don't worry, you won't be on camera when you say this really bad line of dialogue.
All right, set this up for me. I haven't seen the movie yet. This is Look at Me. Can you tell me what scene that is?
Yes, Travolta plays a loan shark who comes to Hollywood to track down someone who owes him money, and accidentally becomes this Hollywood producer through telling his story to different people. In this scene, Travolta is meeting Danny DeVito, who plays Martin Weir, a very important actor, Shorty. He's a title character, and Travolta accidentally convinces DeVito to be in his movie by showing him the right way to look at someone.
Roll tape. Now, you were going to have Danny play Chili Palmer in the beginning? You thought about it?
Again, no one else can believe this, but I absolutely was, because, again, for me, it's not a movie about Hollywood, it's a movie about self-confidence. And Danny is a very self-confident person.
Why did you choose Travolta?
Danny couldn't do the movie. He was about to direct Matilda by the time we got everything together, so he was available for a short window of time, not enough time to play the lead. I was forced to meet Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman, and for various reasons it wasn't working out. And Jersey
You were
Films,
forced to meet by whom?
CAA, the studio. Well, you know, the studio, oh, we can't have DeVito. Okay, here's a list of the people that we would be willing to do the movie with. Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, Clint Eastwood. So you sort of go down that list. And we were very lucky to get Travolta because he was in Pulp Fiction, which Jersey Films also produced, which produced this movie as well. So they said, you know what, we'll get you an early copy of Pulp. So I saw Pulp before it came out and immediately knew that John would be fantastic.
Yeah. Roll tape. This is an interview that Travolta did with me, talking about before I think after Pulp Fiction, but before this film was made. Here it is. But Quentin called you up, and Quentin said, "Hello, John."
In his very soft voice. When Quentin gets serious, you know, he gets very soft.
What did he say?
He said, John, understand that you were offered Get Shorty. You know, that's one of my favorite books, he said. Yeah. And that's also, you know, that script I felt was the best adaptation yet of an Elmore Leonard book, you know. And I really love it, and I really think he'd be brilliant in the part of Chili Palmer. And why did you say no? And I went into...
And then you said what?
And I said, well, you know, I read it, and I haven't read the book, and, you know, I read it, and I didn't... He said, well, this is not the one you say no to. This is the one you say yes to. Okay? This is not the... And he repeated, this is not the one you say no to. And I kind of chuckled because I thought, you know, it's the story of my life, you know.
Yes. See, now this is really scary now. You would have said no, maybe if Quentin hadn't called. I mean, yes?
100. I said no twice.
You.
So in the theory of this, he was my transducer rectifier.
How good is he in this?
Travolta's brilliant. I think it's his best performance ever, and he's never looked so visually accessible. He's got this great Italian haircut. We lit his eyes beautifully, and he's brilliant in the film.
Why this film finally have they made one that's getting all this attention of your novels? What's different?
I think the talent.
You do? So it's this.
Yes,
but I mean, so you mean talent on the screen or talent making the movie?
Talent making the movie and on the set too. The actors, yeah, they're all pros, and they made it work. And also the fact that it's Barry's movie. There's no question about it. This is Barry's movie, and yet it has the attitude, the sound of the book, because everybody in it is honest. I mean, even the crooks are honest. Everyone is. No one's faking. No one's cynical.
Now,
They're all being themselves.
Okay, but is there anything about Get Shorty that makes it the most likely to be adapted to a good movie? Is it any different, any better, or is it no? So all of a sudden, the right thing, the moon and the sun were in the right orbit to make this thing happen for you. You must look back at some of those others and say, you know, how come I had to happen on my 8th try?
Well, no, I don't look back.
You don't?
I don't look back anyway. So.
I know. Elmore Leonard wouldn't look back.
No, there's too much lying ahead.
Yeah.
No, it works. It's a funny movie.
Now, what's this done for people coming into you now saying, you know, are there any more to buy up? Maybe like Barry.
Well, they're all
done that already.
Yeah, you've done that.
They're all gone.
Optioned.
They're all gone.
Now, after this got started, or
before.
Even before? They were all gone.
No, there are a couple.
Yeah.
The latest one, for example, is available. The one I was
You're talking to me about
promoting, here, Riding the Rap.
Yeah, why hasn't it been sold?
And also
holding out for a big buck?
My first 4 westerns. Anybody can pick up for. We could make a deal on easily. Yeah.
You want to buy some more? Then you really thought.
Maximum Bob is a book I'm very interested in, and Elmore and I are talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. Do you want to write screenplays?
No.
Not at all.
No, it's work. and I don't need to do that. And I don't consider writing books work. I get so much satisfaction out of it. I can put in a whole day, and there. But a screenplay, there are too many people to please. And I don't need to do that at my age now. I'm getting along. And
did you offer any advice to them as they were making this
No.
movie? No.
There wouldn't. I didn't have any ideas that. No, and I would have been a little afraid to anyway.
Yeah. Why did this work for you?
Again, it's about character and it's about dialogue.
Right.
And I wanted to make a smart, intelligent movie. And what was so great about Elmore's words is that I found them incredibly amusing as long as you tried not to say them in an amusing way. When the script was written, we invited a bunch of actors to get together and sit down and talk about and read the script. And we had Gene Hackman there and Dennis Farina. This is 3 years ago. And we were just sitting around reading the script, and Hackman was hilarious. And I went up to Gene afterwards and I said, Gene, you were like unbelievably funny. And he said, I was? And I said, yeah, you were great. And he said, well, I wasn't trying to be. And I said, that's the point. Yeah. And I think that's why the movie works.
Yeah.
Are the characters modeled on anyone we know in Hollywood?
No.
Like the Danny DeVito character, Martin. Is that modeled off for any actor that you know or know about?
No. There are any number of actors who could have played the part. Because there are a lot of short actors.
Is Chili Palmer just a creation out of Elmore Leonard's?
Yeah. There is a guy named Chili Palmer, but there's a guy named Chili Palmer in Florida who worked for a friend of mine who was a private investigator. He used to do surveillance work for him. And he had kind of a shadowy background. But I used his name and where he came from Brooklyn, more than anything else.
Do I get this right? Did Sam Peckinpah try to make one of your books into a movie?
Well, United Artists owned City Primeval, and he was considering it, and then he wrote his own screenplay. And City Primeval is an Eastern Western, a Western set in Detroit without cowboys. But he wrote a version with someone else and moved the setting to El Paso. And then it was just another Western.
Everybody in Hollywood wants to be a director, it seems. You went you went the route of cinematography. Was it difficult to make the transition, or is that the easiest transition in the world?
No, the easiest transition is editor. Because you know about telling a story and structure. I was not looking to be a director. I was not one of those guys on the set saying I could be doing that. I was very happy being what I called the friend of the director. And then one day, Scott Rudin, who's a big-time Hollywood producer, called me up and said, I want you to direct The Addams Family. I was not looking to direct. And
why did he say that?
I think he mistakenly thought that because I was known as a stylist of movies, I shot 3 movies for the Coen brothers, which had style to them, and Throw Mama, that he thought that that meant I could stylize a feature film and direct actors. As it turns out, I love actors. I now can't stand working with cinematographers and all the things I tried to do. As a cameraman never wants to put a zoom lens on. He always wants to move the camera by dollying it, but it takes longer. And now as a director, I'm saying, put on a zoom. No one cares. No one notices that stuff. Let's get going here. It's about acting. It's about words. So I've become this horrible creature as a director.
There was a piece in the New York Times talking about the post-production process.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what's so important about, tell me, what's there to be known and learned about the post-production process that will be of interest to the rest of us?
Well, the truth is you have all these ideas when you start a movie. Great shots, sunsets, and as the movie goes on, you just keep making the movie worse and worse. You're losing control. The actors disagree with you about how to do a scene. The scene that's supposed to be a sunset, it's raining, but you got to shoot that day. So when you finish shooting a movie, it's as bad as it will ever be. And through editing, you start to make it better again. You lose certain lines of dialogue. You find a close-up of you and me that we weren't even acknowledging each other, but now it looks like we're thinking seriously about falling in love, whatever. And so that process allows me to finally get control of the movie again. And then by adding music, you really can control the pace of a movie.
And watching this, Elmore...
Yeah.
This is interesting, isn't it?
It really was.
I looked over there and Elmore's going,
Really?
yeah, this is interesting stuff. Well, maybe you'll rethink this process of getting in the movies.
Well, no, I like hanging around. Yeah.
How about a little cameo role?
No, I may write a movie someday if I, think of an original idea that I really like, but I would never adapt one of my books.
Just go straight for the screenplay.
Also, when you've written the book, all your enthusiasm has gone into the book.
Yeah.
Now what are you doing? You're making a copy of it in a way.
If it helps, I'd like to offer you my mother as a topic for a book.
Thank you both. It's a pleasure to have you back, Elmore. Barry.
Thank you very much.
Great to meet you. I can't wait to see the film this Friday night.
Good.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.